We're trying it one more time. Are we on this time? Okay. Looks like we're on this time. Happy April Fools, everybody. I was going to try and say, if you've ever been on guard all day for April Fool's pranks, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. But it seems that we're dealing with our own April Fool's prank of the stream not starting. Go figure. Looks like we've got it under control now. April Fools, he's not coming. Can I get a yes or a thumbs up emoji in the chat if you guys can see this? Because that actually wasn't planned unless my producer is playing games back there, which is always a possibility. Let me know if you folks can see this. Let me go ahead and welcome everybody. Happy April Fools, everybody, just in case you weren't aware what day it was. Paul, good morning. It's great to see you. Welcome back. Florida Yacht Insurance Guy, good morning. Welcome back. Sabin, good morning. Pete checked in. Good morning. How's it going? Sun-Kissed Yogi, welcome back. Good morning. Hellcat, welcome back. Ashok, welcome back. Charles and Travis, good morning. It's great to see you. Ed, Market Sniper, and Terlingua, it's great to see you again as well. Quantum Vortex, The Busox, Peter, Bernhard, welcome back. Ivan, White Chocolate Mocha, Chuck, Day Trader, locked in. All right. Who am I missing here? River, Dermalog, probably butchered that. I'm sorry, man. Cam, Artisan Custom Homes, JJ, locked in. Pete, looks like you gave me a thumbs up there. White Chocolate Mocha, thumbs up. Okay, we got it. We got over the April Fool's prank that Restream apparently played on us. I wonder how many other streams got that. I see you and hear you well. Okay. Appreciate that. Crimp Biscuit, good morning. Fairchild, Game On, good morning. RL, good morning. Okay, we got it. Wild stuff here this morning. Hope you all had a great end of Q1. I know that for whatever reason, this show seems to be the, what do we want to call it? The anti-market. Everything was looking bad yesterday. Everyone was upset. Things looked really bad. And then all of a sudden, it just wasn't so bad. The world didn't end. Go figure. Almost like we knew that the world wasn't going to end. Voodoo, good morning. Welcome back. It is going to be a great day. It's April Fool's Day, first day of the quarter. Futures are under pressure here a little bit. We got more reports from the Washington Post that it should be a 20% tariff. We'll have to wait and see for what tariff/Liberation Day actually brings us tomorrow. But that report this morning sunk the S&P 500 futures here just a little bit. We are actually down 0.5%. Let me get my other window up here. Dow futures down 0.62%, leading the way down, which is surprising. It's been the weakest all morning. And NASDAQ down about 0.5% here, but we're holding in. So that's kind of what we're looking at here this morning. Looks like we're under pressure here. We'll see if the market has the resilience to hold it and then maybe even go green. Let's go ahead and start by taking a look. Oh, yeah, and Newsmax. Oh my gosh. Who traded that yesterday? You guys let me know. Let me know who actually ended up trading that. Just wild stuff. But we'll get to Newsmax here in a sec, I'm sure. Let's take a look at the SPY and see where we're at. So what we've ended up doing yesterday is the chart tells us that we've created a double bottom right at that 10% pullback level, which is the equivalent of 551.91. Nice little power candle there yesterday. Today's candle is probably going to determine where the market is in the morning tomorrow, and we'll see what happens with the whole tariff fiasco that's going to go on tomorrow as well. One of the things that I'd be looking at here today, what kind of range do we have on today's candle? Are we actually going to keep it? Right now, we're obviously inside the candle. Are we going to stay inside the candle? Are we going to break out of this range? Are we going to break out to the upside? We're going to break out to the downside. Do we actually find resistance at the 20-day moving average in case we do rally here today? That 20-day moving average at 565.05. Let's just call it 565. So, and then the downside level is still going to be that 551.91, 5 points below where we're at. We'll see if we can break beneath that and close beneath that. Obviously, yesterday, while we were beneath it, we didn't end up spending a whole lot of time beneath it. And then obviously we closed above it. So these are the levels that I'm kind of looking at with the SPY. We'll see where we end up going here today. And we'll see if we actually get a bigger day today We'll see what tomorrow ends up bringing. I think that's going to be the big day of the week. It's actually probably going to feel like a Fed day, I would guess, just based on how the market's going to react. But we'll see. We'll see how that all shakes out. Let me get to the first article here. I'm going to make sure I didn't miss anything here. Please get going. Yeah, we got it. We figured it out. We got that problem out of the way. Mansoor, hi, good morning. Hans, good morning. Traded NMAX from 90 to 99. Wow. Just wild stuff there with Newsmax. Okay, let's dive into the first story here that I wanted to take a look at. We're also going to take a look at a couple of other stocks and charts based on the news and see if there's a trade there. We have a T3 Tuesday as well coming up here in just a little bit. All right, U.S. stock futures were swinging between gains and losses on Tuesday. After a mixed session on Monday, futures of major benchmark indices were mixed in pre-market trading, although they have kind of moved to the lows here. Trump's Liberation Day, a term he's used for April 2nd, the day of incoming reciprocal tariffs, preceded the drop in stock prices. Again, there was another article this morning, I think 6 a.m. Eastern time by the Washington Post that caused the most recent move down here. The S&P 500 declined by 4.9% in the 4.59%, in the first quarter of 2025, whereas the NASDAQ 100 was down over 10%. Couple of things here that I wanted to go through. Cues from last session: consumer staples, financials, and utilities led S&P 500 gains on Monday. Sure does look like there's just more of a rotation out of tech. That's kind of what we saw yesterday. Even with some of those tech names coming back, they seem to be the laggard yesterday. NVIDIA was most notably weak. Overall, U.S. stocks were mixed. The Dow rose over 400 points amidst the tariff concerns, but the NASDAQ fell due to drops in NVIDIA and Tesla. March saw significant declines in major indices. The S&P down 5.8, NASDAQ down 8.2, the Dow down 4.2. Here's some insights, and we want to go with the Ryan Dietrich stats as we always do. After the S&P 500 index declined 4.59% in the first quarter, marking its largest quarterly underperformance against global markets in 37 years, Ryan Dietrich, chief market strategist at Carson Research, cited historical data in his most recent X post. The average return in April stood at 3.1% after a poor first quarter. However, the average returns for a full year after a bad first quarter stood at just 6.6%. So a little bit of good news, bad news here from Ryan. The good news, April does better after a weak first quarter. We've actually seen this with the seasonality that we've been discussing as well. We've entered that time where seasonality should be better for the overall market. We'll see if that ends up playing out. He goes on to say that the rest of the year is weaker across the board after a weak Q1. So we'll see here how weak the rest of the year is. I know some of you think that the week is good, or the entire rest of the year is going to be really poor. We'll see if we end up getting it here. Stats show that it might not be gangbusters, but it should be all right, especially in April. On the other hand, Stephanie Link, who appears on CNBC all the time, chief investment strategist and the head of investment solutions at Hightower Advisors, says, I'm buying. Now, a couple of things here. First of all, as we've discussed, Stephanie Link has the best Christmas tree set up on CNBC. That has nothing to do with the market here. She is always someone that is optimistic and always someone that is looking to buy. So the fact that she said, I'm buying, not really a surprise here. What she is buying seems to be more important. We'll see how that ends up shaking out here. According to her, U.S. was not in a recession. The consumer sentiment was in better shape, and jobs, wages, and savings were higher. Not all is perfect, but corporate EPS will be better than the long-term average of 5%, she said, making a case to buy more. Her top picks were going to be Meta, NextEra Energy, the parent company of the dividend NEP, the dividend stock. I think XFIR is the new ticker now. That's the parent company. Tim Melvin's talked about that company a few times. Target and Greystone Housing Impact Advisors. Here's the tweet. So buying here, we're not in a recession. The consumer's in better shape. We'll see if Stephanie's trade ends up working out. Tom Lee, who also had a pretty good call here recently, despite investors' fears surrounding potential tariffs from Trump's upcoming announcement, Tom Lee predicts a market rebound, arguing that markets are oversold and pricing in only the worst case scenarios. He believes the high anxiety among fund managers is excessive, and that post-announcement, the market visibility will alleviate the selling pressure, with Bitcoin potentially leading the recovery. Now, That would be sweet if Bitcoin led the recovery. I did not get Bitcoin down to my 70K. So frankly, I'd like to see Bitcoin come in a little bit more. But with Bitcoin being the ultimate risk asset, I actually think that would say something if we end up getting that. Looks like there are several people here looking for a bounce or some type of rebound. We'll see if we get that. And again, I'd like to know how you folks are positioning for all of that. Are you trading that? Are you looking to buy? What's your plan going in, or is it just kind of a sit and wait plan? Totally understand. Okay, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, how much time? We got plenty of time before Derrick comes on here. The next thing that I wanted to talk about is going to be Intel, and let's start here with the chart. So the last time we talked about Intel, we actually had a hypothetical trade if we're able to confirm a breakout here, have a pretty aggressive stop just to make sure that we stay in this here. And it looks like our target is going to be the 500-day. Now I'm going to readjust this if we do end up trading this, but I just kind of want to set the stage for where we're at here. You can see RSI pretty much right in no man's land. Price for Intel, ticker INTC, sitting right above that 50-day moving average. We actually have a amalgam of moving averages down here. And we're very, very close to that 20-day moving average. In fact, if Intel, I know it's down 1.4% here, but if Intel firms up at all here, we actually might kind of cross over that. We might end up taking out or closing over that. It's also worth noting that the 200-day not far above that at 23.5. Now, why are we looking at the Intel chart here? Why are we thinking about a potential trade? We do have some news here. Intel's new CEO, Lip-Bu Tan, made bold promises about the company's future during a recent public speech as CEO on Monday, highlighting major cultural overhaul and signaling potential support from the Trump administration. Now, we've talked a lot about Intel really needing to adjust things that are going on there. It's really kind of fallen behind. The tech isn't as new as some of its competitors. So they're going to need a lot of help. We also talked about Intel being a really significant turnaround story. We kind of compared this to a huge shipping tanker. In order to turn this, it actually takes some time. Now, what he's saying here is he's saying a major cultural overhaul. Sure looks like they're going to be changing quite a bit of things there at the company. And if they have the backing of the administration, perhaps that can make this turnaround a little bit more smooth. We'll see if that ends up happening here. Just to kind of keep going here, Tan, who took over as CEO earlier in March, focused on a cultural transformation at Intel, stressing the need to cut down on bureaucracy, which he believes stifles innovation. Let me know if you've heard that before. That is definitely something that we've seen before. Quote, bureaucracy kills innovation, end quote. Tan said during the speech at a conference in Las Vegas. He made it clear that one of his top priorities would be to recruit top talent, build stronger relationships with key customers while simplifying operations. Right there on the head of that, they're able to achieve all three of those things. I do think that would make for a higher stock price in Intel. Really, the question is going to be how quickly do we get that, and are they successful in doing that? Tan also highlighted that the Trump administration is prepared to assist Intel as the government intends to maintain U.S. semiconductor leadership. I don't think it's any secret that we're all aware how important semiconductors are, from just the regular traders here to anyone in the administration. So none of this really comes as a surprise. They are asking me, what can we help with? This is from the CEO saying they are asking me, what can we help with? And definitely, I will come to get their help to do what we need to do, Tan said, signaling a collaborative effort to strengthen the company's position in a competitive chip market. Intel's leadership has struggled the past few years, falling behind competitors like Taiwan Semiconductor in chip production and NVIDIA in AI chip development. In his inaugural letter to shareholders, Tan spoke about aligning spending with a market demand, a strategy that includes maintaining Intel's product business and contract chip manufacturing unit, a vision initially set by former CEO Pat Gelsinger. This approach involves cost-cutting measures, including a 15% workforce reduction. Tan's strategy also extends to rejuvenating Intel's chip design by expanding its foundry business with potential commitments from major clients like NVIDIA and Broadcom. Intel stock has climbed 12.31% since January, but the stock has declined almost 49% over the last 12 months. And according to Benzinga Edge's stock market rankings, Intel holds a 3.5% growth rating. All right. So we'll see here if Intel can get turned around. I'm curious. I also want to know, First of all, do you believe in Intel? Do you believe they can turn it around? How long do you think that turnaround might take? And then are there other things connected to this, like the article kind of hints at, that you would rather trade? Are you looking to trade NVIDIA? Does this make Broadcom more attractive? AVGO, which we've discussed as being a potential add if the market continues to get pounded. So I kind of want to know from the group here. I've actually had success trading Intel before. You've had to be patient with this, which I know is not always the most fun thing to do, especially for those of us that are active every day and always looking for opportunities. Sometimes sitting around in a legacy company like this for a long trade can be difficult or somewhat boring. But last time our happy hour group really kind of focused in on Intel, we had this thing traded from 25 to 50 in a matter of a year. So we had pretty much a double up in just 12 months time. And part of me wonders if, hey, is the bottom actually in here? We've done a lot of we've had a lot of conversations about Intel. And the chart pretty much tells the story here, right? This 18 to 19 bottom looks pretty safe. If it can hold up off this levels, if we really don't re-challenge that level anymore, I really think that this can start making some headway. And this actually might be a pretty good trade. I don't have anything unusual that I've seen so far on the options market. That might be something to start paying attention to going forward here. But again, just keep in mind where Intel is. I also expect to see more stories, more chatter, and more perhaps market transactions involving Intel if we are able to cross above that 200-day. We saw this before. I suspect we will see this again. One more thing to note here on Intel. Recently, this move up off the bottom, even despite some of these pullbacks, we've actually created a series of higher lows. So again, chart helping out here. We'll see if we can end up getting a trade here. A move through the 200-day and a couple of closes above it would really do well. And again, all of this kind of up in the air. We'll see what happens tomorrow with some of those different tariffs. Okay. All right. Next here, let's talk about oil. This has been another news story here. April is oil's best month, and May is the second best month. I think several of you have traded some types of oil stocks here fairly regularly. I don't know if anyone's in that. Let me know if anyone is actually watching or trading oil right now. I'd be curious to see if there are any live trades going on that. What's going on here? Oil is entering its historically strongest month with a bang, as a 3% rally on the final day of March sent West Texas Intermediate crude to a 6-week high, just as geopolitical risks emerge and seasonal trends signal further upside. So it looks like we're actually getting a combination of things. Why is oil suddenly heating up? WTI crude, which is tracked by USO, closed March with over a 3% jump to $71.50 a barrel. Its biggest one-day rally since mid-January and the highest level since February 21. Several bullish forces are converging. First, the ongoing delay in reaching a Black Sea ceasefire between Ukraine and Russia. There was some more news about those negotiations this morning here. Keep supply risk on the table. Moscow has demanded sanctions relief as a condition for compliance, which could stall negotiations further. In fact, I believe Trump was saying that if they don't stop the bloodshed going on in Ukraine soon, he's not afraid to slap more sanctions on Russian oil. So again, it'll be interesting to see how this one shakes out. Trump's latest comments, which he had threatened secondary sanctions of up to 50% on buyers of Russian oil, add more fire to an already tense backdrop. Quote, if Russia and I are unable to make a deal on stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine, and I think it was Russia's fault, which it might not be. But if I think it was Russia's fault, I'm going to put secondary tariffs on oil and all oil coming out of Russia. The president also threatened military strikes on Iran if a new nuclear deal isn't reached. Quote, if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing, the likes of which they have never seen before, end quote. Trump also floated the idea of a 25% indirect tariff on Tehran's oil exports, deepening the fears of renewed Middle East energy shock. So there was another analyst down here that I wanted to go over his comments here real quick. Also regarding May being the statistically best month, we talked about April. May isn't far behind April. The second best month on average, crude gained 2.3% historically through only 48% of the time. However, the average is skewed by post-crisis rebounds like the 88% rally in May of 2020 during the COVID recovery and a 29.7% jump in May 2009 following the global financial crisis. So we'll see here if May's strong. April, remember, the strongest month. Bank of America technical analysis Paul Ciana said that the second quarter has typically been strong for oil. That leading, spring leading into the summer, that should be no surprise to anybody. With an average gain of about 10% since 1984, the current pattern could favor buying dips in April for a potential upside through June. Quote, the last 10 years favor buying April dip for May, June rally. So who's doing this? Who's actually buying the oil dip? Are you buying oil companies? Are you trading the futures contract? Are you just trading the ETF USO because it's easy? Is anyone trading oil? This actually looks to be a pretty good setup here, at least seasonally. The looming geopolitical squeeze combined with seasonal strength is why many traders are eyeing a test of the $80 level ahead of the summer driving season. With refinery maintenance winding down, and gasoline demand typically ramping up in the second quarter, the fundamentals could align for a bullish breakout. So there you go. Possible bullish upside here on oil. Again, this should affect some of the oil stocks. I know several of you folks have brought this up before. I think Tim Melvin has talked about these. Actually, I think on Happy Hour, we looked at a midstream company yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So nonetheless, would just like to know if anyone's trading oil already. It does look like there's a potential long side trade here. Okay. And then let's see, how much time do we have? Got a couple of minutes here before Derrick. Perfect. Next story that I wanted to go over, just OpenAI has finalized a record-setting $40 billion funding round, boosting the company's valuation to $300 billion with major investments from SoftBank and Microsoft and other key backers. The financing round is the largest in history, according to the firm PitchBook, and almost doubles OpenAI's previous valuation of $157 billion. SoftBank led the latest funding round with the initial investment of $7.5 billion, accompanied by $2.5 billion from a group of investors. Other investors in the group are Microsoft, Coatue, I think I pronounced that correct. Hopefully I'm not butchering it. Coatue Management and Altimeter Capital Management and Thrive Capital. The second round of funding totaling $30 billion is expected by the end of 2025. This will consist of $22.5 billion from SoftBank and $7.5 billion from the investor group. OpenAI reportedly expects its revenue to surge $12.7 billion this year. The company also revealed that 1 million paid users of its corporate versions of ChatGPT with a new $200 per month Pro plan for access for advanced AI models. On Monday, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman announced plans to release a new open weight language model with reasoning capabilities. So, what's this going to do for some of the AI names? What's this going to do for NVIDIA? Curious to know what you folks are looking at with that. Now, I'm sure we're going to get asked about NVIDIA today, so we might as well go ahead and take a look at the chart. And again, NVIDIA did bounce yesterday, but it definitely felt weaker than some of the other tech names. We got asked about NVIDIA yesterday. What I still see here for NVIDIA, same thing that I said yesterday. I suspect that this is going to continue to trade down as we continue to see rotation out of some of the big cap tech names. We talked about this yesterday. One of the gentlemen that watches options quite a bit and gamma levels quite a bit did say that there looks to be a lot of buying interest just waiting right there on NVIDIA at 100. So it'll be interesting to see if we do get to 98, 99, which is kind of what the channel is telling us here, especially based on a more orderly move down as opposed to some type of flush on the way down. But we've talked about this before. I suspect quite a bit that we're going to see some strong buying around the $100 level. That looks to be confirmed yesterday on that. So I'm not a huge fan of some of these chip makers right now, especially with all of the tariff stuff going on and a market pullback that might not yet be done. But honestly, that $100 level for Nvidia, that might just be too juicy not to take a very small swing, or I mean, depending on the day, maybe even a day trade, as I do suspect Nvidia will bounce there a little bit, or maybe a lot of it at 100. Does seem to be a lot of buying interest there. Additionally, if we kind of sink through that level, if we break through that level, I would actually also anticipate a recovery fairly quick for maybe it won't be a long-term recovery, but I do expect that $100 level to be volatile. And if we break beneath it, I wouldn't be surprised if we recover that in pretty short order. So nothing has really changed here on Nvidia. I feel like a degenerate, but if we do come into 100, I will probably try and trade that off of 100. So we'll see. Mark says, Ryan, I trade CL, which is the oil futures, every day. And yes, it has risen a significant amount in the past couple of days. Mark, my follow-up question would be, do you see more legs on that trade? Do you have any price target there on oil? And are there any particular events, news catalysts that you're looking out for that might affect your trade? I don't trade oil very often. Some of those oil names really do have great dividends and might actually make for some pretty good trades, especially in a declining market if oil remains strong. So let me know. Let me know how you break that down. Reaching Financial Freedom says Oxy is my trade. My average is 58.30. There you go. Okay, so it does look like we do have some oil traders here, and we'll see if any of them file in here as well. Okay, couple of minutes till we get to Derrick here. Let's see if there was anything else. I guess, what else do we want to take a look at here today? Let's see. I guess we could take a look here at Oxy real quick. Take a look at that chart. Let me know if there's any other charts that are really kind of getting to you. You know what? I did want to take a look at app. And I kind of want to ask Anne Marie about that. I know we've been talking a lot about app recently. Let me add that to the list here. Anyway, here's Oxy. So reaching financial freedom, you were mentioning that your price here, 58.30 on Oxy. So you're basically right up by the 500 day. Also looks like, at least going back to 2022, looks like you are right under that volume point of control. If Oxy can really kind of hold this, if we do get the oil prices to rise, I actually think you might be set up for that. I'd be curious to know, what's your plan to run for the exit if the trade doesn't work? Would you consider adding at any point to lower your cost basis? And then inevitably, if the trade does start to work for you, do you have any upside targets on that? Maverick saying USO is a good trade. This one, when I used to trade, or when I used to try to trade oil, I used to try and trade options here on USO. This one is pretty good. It's always pretty liquid. Never going to really get those huge moves, though, that you do in some of the other individual names. But nonetheless, here's what it looks like for USO. Again, kind of going back to 2022, we look like we're right at the volume point of control. Looks like we're right at the volume point of control. Okay, you guys want to take a look at NMAX? I don't know how much there actually is to take a look at this for. It's just one humongous green bar. Let's see what we're at here today. Okay, so all right. We did come off the pre-market highs of is that for real? 128? Your pre-market high here in the open. So I know we talked about this. We had mentioned it pretty much right as we were getting off, right? Our show was just about to end. We flipped over to Newsmax, excuse me. It was in a 14 handle here, 15 handle, just pretty much mid-teens. As you can see, boy, oh boy, what a ripper. Now, the couple of things that I want to mention here. First of all, this is the action yesterday that you saw here at NMAX is one of the reasons why IPOs are highly sought after, why there are traders that really like to kind of go after some of these. Not all of them work like this. I can't tell you why Newsmax went crazy here yesterday, other than there were just more buyers than sellers. 723% on its first day. This obviously has some upside momentum right now. I don't necessarily think that it is worth this much. I don't have any of this. I'm not trading this, but this is definitely going to be on watch here today. Definitely. And in fact, for those of you that actually traded Newsmax yesterday, are you looking to trade this again here today? Are there any levels that look really good to you? Like if this pulls back to 80, are you looking to kind of add this? I know 80 was kind of a level we struggled to get over yesterday until the end of the day. So let me know. This was wild yesterday. I'm expecting some more volatility here today. You folks, let me know if this is something that you're going to end up trading. Okay, it's 8:30. It's a T3 Tuesday. Y'all know what that means. Let's go ahead, bring on our guest. All right, Derrick, good morning. Happy Tuesday. How you doing here today?
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. I'm doing all right. We have a lot of an exciting week still ahead of us.
We do have an exciting week. We've had some excitement already. I'm not even going to waste any time. First of all, did you trade Newsmax yesterday?
I didn't trade Newsmax. It just really didn't pop on my radar. I traded that CoreWeave on Friday and made a few dollars on it. And by the time I even saw what was going on with Newsmax, to be totally honest, it was up at like $40, $60. And I was like, all right, I'm just not touching this thing at this point. This is one of those things where immediately after an IPO, it doesn't matter what the company's worth. Like, forget about that. This thing could go to $500, it could go to $700, or it could go right back down to $10. Your guess is as good as mine. The spreads on it are really wide. The borrows are super expensive. So it's honestly not something that I'm going to be involved in since I missed that opening move.
Yeah, it sounds to me like you did not feel like you had an edge, so you're opting to pass. I think that's the smart move. That's what I would do too. I don't know how many of these IPOs you've watched, but honestly, this reminded me a lot of the GoPro IPO and the Beyond Meat IPO, where both of those stocks were just crazy numbers for what the company was worth. So you're right about that. Momentum really kind of carried those trades there.
I remember that GoPro IPO very well, and if I remember correctly, that gave follow through for like a month plus or something like that. It might not even have been until the lockup expiration that the thing actually peaked out and started to come back down, which whenever you're dealing with these types of IPOs, I always like to make a calendar alert for those lockup expirations because see what it's doing as you're going into that lockup. If it's still high flying and going insane, a lot of times that might really begin to set up your real short. And then other times they overprice in the lockup or they sell it down so much into it that it actually becomes like a buy the event situation. So that's one to put in a calendar alert out 6 months or so.
Really, really good mention there. And I'm actually going to piggyback off of that. If you have Benzinga Pro, guess what? In our IPO calendar, we will give you that insider IPO lockup date. Very easy to follow along with. Love the tip of setting that there in your broker to alert you. Really good stuff there. Okay, did you have anything that you wanted to cover here on CoreWeave?
No, this was just a one and done for me, unless it can get back above 40. I think 40 is an important point for it. Technically, that and basically the all-time high of 42 is all I'm going to really pay attention to. This was an interesting one because I originally planned on shorting it. I was like, all right, they're going to give me like a $45 IPO price. It's super hyped. They're going to open it up at 65 on the secondary market. And that's something that I'm going to want to come in and borrow and short. And then they had so much difficulty getting this thing off the ground that I began to look at it on the other side. Oh, now we're going to only have a $40 IPO. We are reducing the float. There's no hype around it at all. So I was like, this actually might end up being a little bit of like a quick day trade long. And it wasn't easy. They pulled that thing back quickly. There was some opening selling before they eventually got it back up at 40. And I was able to catch a little bit of a momentum trade. And then I just got out of the way when I saw that it gapped down to below 40 yesterday morning. I was like, all right, I'll put an alert out for that $40 area. If it gets up there, I'll look at it. But it just seems to me that the company is going to have to raise more money. So it's going to be dilutive at a certain point. They have a tremendous amount of revenue growth, and they've got some big backers. But I think that there are some difficulties underneath the surface with the company, and I'm not in a rush to be involved.
Okay, I'm with you on that too. I actually talked to my buddy who knows someone that is involved here in some capacity. He said investors were not happy here on CoreWeave. Chart really kind of shows the same thing. Folks, we are with Derrick Oldensmith from T3. Trade with Derrick for 5 full days for free in his ProDesk virtual trading floor, April 7th through April 11th. The QR code here is on the screen. We also put the link in the chat, so be sure to check that out. Okay, you didn't think you were coming on here without answering a question about tariffs, did you?
No, I didn't think so.
Okay, so let's just go ahead and get that out of here. How are you preparing for the tariff announcement? Is there anything that you're looking for? Individual stocks, concepts, sectors? How are you doing this?
Sure. So there's just so much uncertainty around this. A lot of the times these events will be like a sell the rumor, buy the news thing. I don't necessarily think that that's true here. We could see a little bit of a vol squash and a little bit of a bid. I think part of it depends on where we're trading, even kind of going into the announcement. And the way we've been moving these last several days, that's even hard to say, though I did think that yesterday morning's gap down was a good, at least shorter term tactical buy, because there's a day 4 gap down into some extreme extension, into some support. So I was coming in as a buyer yesterday. After yesterday's up move, though, it's a little bit tricky. So today I'm going to be pretty selective, pretty hands off while we wait for the tariff announcement to come. And again, there's a lot of uncertainty. Like some of the reports I'm even reading this morning make it sound like the White House doesn't even know exactly what they're going to be putting on yet. It seems to me like this is going to work in a few different stages. We're going to get the announcement tomorrow. Then we're going to see retaliation from our partners that we trade with. That's then going to lead to escalation. And then that will probably eventually lead to some sort of reconciliation or some sort of deal structure that maybe then is the real buy event. So it's difficult because as we come into the month of April, there's some bullish seasonality here. There could be an underlying bid to this market. I want to be bullish from that perspective of things. But then when I look at tariffs, it seems like tomorrow is just the end of the beginning. And what do tariffs do? Tariffs are inflationary and low growth by nature. And eventually that could trickle into the numbers. And we just don't know. If you could tell me 3 to 6 months from now exactly what the tariff front's going to look like, I could tell you how I want to position myself for it. But I don't think anybody has any idea what the tariff front's actually going to look like in 3 to 6 months from now. If this leads to some great deal structures where overall tariffs end up going down, we could be back to all-time highs. If this turns into a situation where we have 25 to 50% tariffs amongst everybody and that doesn't go away, we could be down 30% from all-time highs. We could be in a massive bear market, or we could be all the way back up. So it's certainly tricky. I'm kind of taking it day by day. Like I said, yesterday's a great example. You could be big picture bearish because you think that tariffs are terrible, but yesterday was still a great opportunity for a tactically bullish trade into that day 4 gap down as we were getting extremely extended. Then on the 4th 5-minute candle of the day, you got a perfect little hammer doji for a setup where you could have laid into some longs and caught the entirety of the intraday uptrend that we had. So it's a good trader's market because we're getting a lot of moves. But as far as the big picture goes of where we're going to actually end up with what these tariffs look like, their effect on both inflation and growth, and therefore the follow through to the market from a month or 2 months from now, it's just so difficult to say until we get more clarity.
Okay, that's spot on with that. I think that's a really good breakdown, and that actually leads into my next question, which is I'm sure what everyone is asking. Do you think that we trade better post April 2nd? Meaning, do you think that we get enough clarity on what's going to happen here for a majority of the uncertainty to be removed so that things trade better? Do you think that's possible, or do you think there's a longer runway before we get that certainty?
I think it's a longer runway before we get the certainty. I think it is very possible that we get enough tomorrow that it gives us at least some sort of shorter term relief and shorter term pop that could be like a couple day move higher that retraces a little bit of what happened at the end of last week. But I think that like I said, I think Scott Bessent himself said June. Look towards June to finally be able to get some clarity, because we're going to announce the tariffs, And then we got to get the reaction from Europe. We got to get the reaction from China. And now we've got South Korea, Japan, and China apparently all planning on giving us like a unified statement, which was really interesting to see that headline come out yesterday. And then we have to go through a whole negotiation thing. So this still could be a few months away before we get genuine clarity. And I would just look towards what the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent himself, said, which is look towards June to finally be able to get some real clarity. So I think what Charlie McElligott at Nomura is saying, which is this is the end of the beginning of tariffs, is the right way to think about it.
Okay. I think that's a really good breakdown there. Really well said. So let me just ask you then, you have any setups that you're kind of watching right now? I know you had said earlier that today might be more of just kind of a hands-off sit and watch day, which I completely understand. In fact, I wouldn't even be surprised if a majority of market participants felt the same way that you did. But are there any setups or individual issues that you're looking for or waiting for to maybe jump on when we do get any more information about all this stuff?
Yeah, I certainly have a few things that I'm looking at. So I do like the energy space right now. I like XLE. If you want to pull it up, it's developed some nice support. This XLE around 92. Chevron and ExxonMobil seem to be the real leaders in there. That Chevron chart, a little bit of an upside tail from yesterday, but overall that's flagging out. It looks really good. We're also kind of in the oil drilling space. If you look at VAL, Valaris, that thing had given a capitulation low in the beginning of March, and now it's been doing more of a consolidation here. I mean, if you believe in the concept of drill, baby, drill, this could be a real winner here. So I'm looking at this thing to maybe give continuation through $40 to $41. So I think that the energy space is an area where, if you remember in 2022, when we had a bear market, where did people put their money? They put their money into value, and energy is a value play. So I'm looking at XLE. I've got a position in Chevron. I have a position at VAL, just for full disclosure purposes. I do not have a position in ExxonMobil, but I like it as well. I still like the China trade. I have a position in Alibaba. I think you could look to be long versus yesterday's low. China is potentially going to continue to stimulate. The company has a massive buyback. It still trades at an extraordinarily cheap PE when you compare it to like any of its U.S. counterparts, and that's for a reason. Partially, there's just more risk when you're dealing with China equities, so it should trade at a little bit of a lower multiple, but it's pretty extreme. I think Baba's at like a 13 PE or something like that when you compare it to an Apple that's probably trading a little bit closer to like a 30 or maybe a little bit under 30 now that some of these names have pulled back a bit.
You're spot on, Baba, with a 13.07 PE going into today. Apple's PE 30.30 going into today. So you're spot on with both of those numbers there.
Yep. So I still like that trade. And if you look at that Alibaba chart, it's developing a nice base in that $30 area. They tried to get it below that yesterday. They defended it really well. They got it back above. So there's still some pretty good relative strength in that zone. What else? For today specifically, believe it or not, even though I'm not necessarily a huge fan of them, I have an eye on some of these quantum computing stocks. They seem to be showing relative strength in the pre-market today. I think that there was an announcement of a product from IonQ specifically, and I do have a position in IonQ. That's the one that I'm in, but it's set to gap up 3% right now, 3.6% when the market itself is gapping down. So there's some interest there. There's some relative strength. Maybe there's a trade in this thing kind of through yesterday's high, or if you look at like a QUBT, which I'm not in QUBT, this has also developed a clear like flatline resistance around $9 that might be worth putting an alert out for if that relative strength gives some follow through. We know that these names can run when they want to run. So if they decide to wake up, there could be some okay trades there. So I've got those on the radar for some, cute trades that might have a lower probability to the indexes while we wait for some bigger picture index clarity. And then honestly, the more that we're able to move higher, I'm pretty net long right now. I'm actually in 26 long positions. A lot of that stems from yesterday and getting heavier into yesterday's down move. But if we can bounce back a little bit further, I'm going to be quickly pairing out of those, and then maybe looking to put some shorts on. And in the short universe, like Tesla continues to be a go-to short for me. Palantir continues to kind of be a go-to short for me. Some of the most expensive stocks that are out there can give the biggest bounces, and I think that also tends to lead to good shorting opportunities when it comes together.
Okay, so you were just mentioning these stocks also being expensive. Is there a particular PE level that you're waiting for on some of these high flyers like Tesla or Palantir?
In order to buy them, or
yeah, in order to maybe think that, hey, maybe alongside trade, because weren't you just saying that this is one of your better shorts? What would it take, I guess? What type of PE level or valuation metric would it take for you to change your stance on that to the long side?
So Tesla is just so expensive. I've done really well on this thing to the short side over the course of this calendar year. It's still trading it at what, 140 PE, but now it's got less than 1% revenue growth per its 2024 numbers, and we're continuing to see even this morning, just like the European car sales absolutely just implode. So they're not doing well in Europe, and Europe is a market right now where EV sales are expanding, but Tesla is actually the opposite. No one's buying them. In China, I don't think that they can compete. And in the US, I don't want to make it political. I never want to make it political, but I'm just going to make a kind of a blanket statement. When it comes to my friends and family, and I have friends and family who are on the left and who are on the right, the people I know who are on the right, they don't want to buy an electric car. And the people I know who are on the left, they don't want to buy a Tesla. So I don't know how Tesla can justify 140 PE with 1% revenue growth in 2024. That looks like it's getting even worse than that as we get into 2025. That's the fundamental thought process. This is a high beta stock. So I actually had called out a long through 240 in this thing a little bit over a week ago for a snapback to the $280 to $300 range. That trade worked out perfectly. And then next thing I knew, when it was getting into that 290 area, I actually started shorting it again for another quick trade. I'm out of that right now. But this is a one where you can tactically play both sides, because you will get really big bounces, even if it just continues the downtrend that it's currently in and works its way to a more appropriate multiple. But a more appropriate multiple might mean that Tesla's at $125. So, we'll see. It's obviously been able to.
Optimus robot, not a needle mover for you?
It's a pipe dream at this point.
I'm with you.
There's just going to be so much competition in the space. Maybe they become the winner, but who's to say? Everybody wants to do that.
Yeah.
And in robo-taxis, I don't think that they're winning. As a matter of fact, I think you could look at a pairs trade where you're long Uber, short Tesla, if you want to be a little bit more market neutral on it, to take advantage of some of the robo-taxi stuff with what Uber is doing with Waymo, and then still have the Tesla short because the company's expensive.
Uber here, by the way, a wonderful job yesterday defending that 200-day as it bounced off of that. That's pretty interesting. Uber, another one of the trades that is highly sought after here on this show. Folks, we are here with Derrick Oldensmith from T3. Trade with Derrick for 5 full days free in his Pro Desk virtual trading floor, April 7th through 11th. Okay, Derrick, anything else that you got for us before you get out of here? I know that you were just talking about oil. I absolutely love that. Right before you got on here, we were talking about the seasonality for oil being great, April being the best month, May being the second best month as it gears up for the summer there. So love the thesis on the oil trades there. You got anything else for us here on this Tuesday?
So we talked about China, we talked about oil, we talked about quantum maybe for a little bit of a trade. I want to see if AMD and NVIDIA can hold yesterday's low. I think that there could be a long in AMD and NVIDIA versus yesterday's low, but if they lose it because the market's selling, get out of the way, stop yourself out on those things. NVIDIA's starting to get a little cheap down here. It's becoming interesting, and they kind of held that support area around that 104. I was buying 104 yesterday, and then I'm all out of the trade already. And then AMD is interesting because AMD was in this big, brutal downtrend going back to October of 2024. And finally was able to break that in mid-March, despite general weakness in the market for March. And then it got hit with a downgrade last week that weakened it out a little bit, and the market pulled back in. But I'm curious to see if this AMD can actually give a little bit of a higher low, defend that $100 area, and work its way back up. So you might be able to look at both of them, but I would have a very tight stop loss, manage your risk. If they break yesterday's low, you just want to be out of the way on them and move on.
Okay, all of that sounds great. By the way, here on AMD, I preemptively drew a potential inverse head and shoulders just to see if this would set up. We'll see if we do get that chart formation here. Derrick, this was awesome. Great little rundown here. I know, exciting times that we probably haven't seen before. We'll see how tomorrow goes and then how long the runway is until we really get that clarity that you spoke about. Thanks so much for joining us here today. We'll check in with you next time, okay?
My pleasure. I'll look forward to seeing a lot of your subscribers here in my virtual trading floor for the free week that we're giving out. So see you next time.
There you go. Hit that QR code. Link is also in the chat. Derrick, thanks again for all your time. Really good stuff here today. That is Derrick Oldensmith of T3. Really good breakdown. Really good ideas there. Love that he is also looking at oil. That's exactly what I was hoping for. So real good stuff there from Derrick. Now, Derrick's departure leaves room for 13. Let's bring him on. 13, how are you doing here today?
I'm doing pretty good. Sorry for any of the noise you might be hearing around me. I'm having some concrete poured today, so if it's a little bit noisy, I do apologize.
It's not, man. All I hear is the keyboard and mouse clicks and your sweet baritone voice.
Oh, Jesus. All right, well.
I got to embarrass you somehow. Come on now.
No, you're just making a joke. It is April Fool's, by the way, so yeah. Happy April Fool's Day, everybody. Yeah. Let's not make fools of ourselves today in the market.
Have you gotten pranked yet today?
No, I think everybody forgot.
Okay, I think that I did because I tried to start the stream here today and it wouldn't start. And I know that the people in the back, they know that, I like to be on time. I like things to work correctly. So the show not starting on time gives me heart palpitations. I suspect that one or both of my producers were involved in that fiasco here this morning. I haven't been able to confirm that, but it sounds like I've already got an April Fool's prank played on me as well. Okay, I do have a couple of things. I went through all the news that I wanted to go over. I actually didn't mention economic events. Today we do have manufacturing PMI as well as the ISM manufacturing PMI and the JOLTS job openings. What do you want to cover? I have a couple of things that I want to hit here, but do you just want to go to the movers?
Yeah, let's get the movers out of the way because it's a bit of a weird list today. There's, the biggest movers that we have are companies that either have another company taking a stake in it or they're getting, bought out.
Okay.
So we can start with those.
We will do that. Before we actually roll through this list, I did want to address a question here from Matthew. I don't want it to get so far that I forget about it. By the way, the other two stocks that I already have on the list here, App, I want to talk about that. We talked a little bit about it on the happy hour. I know we've set up some trades with Anne-Marie recently. And then also I want to talk about Celsius. Someone had brought that up here. I did add that to the list. Ed, you also wanted to take a look at ENPH. I'll add that one to the list as well. But I did want to go through here. Matthew here saying, morning, Ryan. Why do you think ONDS recovered last week? Let me go ahead and pull that up here real fast. Why do you think ONDS recovered last week? There doesn't seem to be any news or reason. That was a big move back above $1. Okay, a couple of things here. So first of all, we'll get to the news here in a sec because we actually did have some new fresh news here today. But your question came before this news drop was even out here this morning. So let's go ahead and address that. First of all, no secret. This is a spec play. I do believe that this has a long runway. I believe that the drone theme is not dead and not going away. And I believe that this company is uniquely positioned to take advantage of that. I've told you all of that before. You're asking, why did this make a big move recently? Because this stock needed to be above $1. It needs to maintain its NASDAQ compliance. It's not going away. This isn't a scam company where they're going to steal the money. At least I don't believe that. None of my research has uncovered that. None of the people I've talked to have uncovered that. I have no reason to suspect that. So the fact that this stock re-entered penny territory and went as far down as like 60 cents, that to me, it was just, look, this is completely oversold. Now, I know I have been telling you folks that my long-term approach, I'm looking for double digits on the stock. None of that has changed. But given some of the action that we've seen here and how drones have been, let's call them highly speculative and also prone to momentum, I realized that I just kind of have to adjust how I'm going to trade this. So when this came back in, I told you here, folks, I was adding a lot to my position to lower my cost basis again. And the hope here is that the next time this moves over $1, I'm going to be able to sell into that move and book some of those gains. Well, lo and behold, that is exactly what has happened. Now, let me go back to the regular chart here because I'll show you some of those levels that I am looking to take partial gains on. And the first one here is going to be near that 50-day moving average. I had initially debated this, the 200-day moving average down here at 109. It was like 108 and change yesterday. We closed right beneath it. But my suspicion here is, I want a little bit more. I want a little bit more room. I do expect this to kind of trade up to 130, maybe 135. You'll notice the other two moving averages that we have right there, the 50 and the 100-day. I do kind of expect that. I would probably lighten a little bit here. You can also see that we've added some trend lines to this chart recently. I expect this trend line to also provide some resistance. If we zoom back in there, you can see that that trend line is going to be somewhere around the 150 area. So I am looking to sell some of this just to book some gains, put that money in my back pocket, raise cash in case this market does kind of dive. Matthew, to answer your question here, I believe in this company, and I believe that this is going to be a winner down the road. The temporary blip and the move back down was completely overdone, and it needed to be above $1 to maintain its compliance on the market. So I actually felt better trying to add to this. Now, the last thing that I want to add to this is another piece of news. Now, I don't know when these news events are coming. I just suspect us to have more news throughout the course of the year, and we're getting more of that here today. Ondas secures a $3.2 million order to expand the Optimus drone infrastructure in the UAE. So a $3.2 million purchase order hitting the wire here today. No, I've been on the show with you since we started here today. I haven't gone through the PR. I will, and I can let you know what I think about that when I have some more information about that. Let me know if any of that is helpful. Glenn, I appreciate all of the charting and the levels that you've been giving here on this. Glenn here saying 133 is next for Ondas. Well, gosh, wasn't I just telling you that some of the spots I was looking for there was 130 and 135? And you smack dab in the middle of that 133. Good stuff there. Good stuff there. Brandy, I took 80% on Ondas last week. I'll get some more at some point soon. This is what I like to see. If you guys are booking gains and putting money in your pocket off of this, absolutely awesome. Well done, Brandy. We're going to start off with a register ring here. Okay, that covers that. We will get to app, Celsius, and ENPH here in a sec. 13, let's handle the movers. I'm going to start here with just the top of the list, if that's okay, unless there was one specifically that you wanted to do here. First one here is going to be IBIO. I almost called it iBio because we've traded that one 1 billion times off of the scanner. This one, ticker IBO, India, Bravo, Oscar. Impact Biomedical, we traded as high as 180. It looks like we backed off that and lost the VWAP here. Let's see if there's any news on this one. I don't see anything here. It looks like this is just kind of moving. Looks like we did have a Form 10 in the afternoon. I'm not sure if that's what's driving it 71% here today. It is. That is, in fact, what's doing. Okay, we'll break that down here in a sec. Short interest here, very minimal. 9,000 shares in the short held open there. I don't have a float reading here. Maybe you've got that. 13, what's going on here? Ticker IBO.
So IBO actually had an IPO in September. So this is a new issue. This company just recently had a stake taken in it by a company called Allset Incorporated. That ticker is AEI. Hold on a second. I just hit the wrong button on my Pro. They took a 39.7% stake in the company. The company has 4.57 million shares in the float. And I don't have a real good cash rating on them because they're a new company. So didn't go too much further than that. Looks like in the pre-market here, we're past the impulse move and we're trading beneath VWAP. I'm thinking that this may end up just coming back in. there's another company took a stake in it. That's all there is to it. This could go on a bit of a run, but right now it seems like in the pre-market, this is just going to come right back in. It doesn't, I just don't have a whole lot on IBO, but that's why.
Yeah, and I was looking back at that March 20, the last time the stock went crazy. I don't really see anything around here either, other than the notifications that this was halted on a circuit breaker. So, okay, interesting stuff here. Doesn't really seem like a whole lot, but we'll see how it shakes out here today.
No, and it's trading beneath the up right now. So for me, this is gonna be one that I just wait to see what happens at the open.
Okay, good stuff there. Real quickly, good morning to those who I did not say good morning to already. Wiss here, lol, April Fool's joke. Wiss saying April Fool's jokes are not funny anymore. Tiger Woods giving us an April Fool's joke is so messed up. I missed that. Be sure to let me know what that is or tweet it to me or something. I have no idea what you're talking about, but I can make some guesses. Anyway, let's keep rolling here. 13, the next one I have, this one's probably up your alley, is it not? Sat X. Okay, so that laugh told me everything I needed to know. 13. So there we go. So SatixFi Communications, clever name there. SatixFi Communications shares are trading higher after MD